Hi Cancer, welcome to your January 2019 love reading. It's Raina here, and I just am starting over again because of excessive throat clearing, and I don't want to have that on the recording, and editing is very difficult these days. So hopefully I can get through this without having to clear my throat, but whatever. The overall theme is the Seven of Wands, and even if you don't know the meaning of this card, just try to guess what this could possibly indicate. I'm sure a lot of people would see that this man is in a defensive posture. He's feeling like he has to defend himself against some kind of attack. And this is what you may be feeling. Now, just to clarify, even if you're single, this could be how you approach relationships, that you have to protect yourself. Even if somebody hasn't done anything, one of the shadow sides of Cancer is hypersensitivity and being very vulnerable to hurt feelings and things like that. So you have to be careful in that particular case that you don't get too caught up in that defensive posture if it's really not in your reality at the moment. Just because your ex-husband or ex-wife did that, don't assume that everyone is out to hurt you. And because that could definitely lessen your chances of finding someone. So, people typically do not want to walk on eggshells. They want to have relationships that are where they feel free to be who they are. Now, if you're in a relationship, it's very possible that this person is causing you to be in this defensive posture, maybe to defend yourself constantly. And that's a tactic that some people use to keep the other person off balance, to keep them in that defensive mode, because they're easier to control. If you are somebody who is in a particular defensive posture, you don't have much power in the relationship, if you think about it, because you're pretty it's like contracted. You're not able to project yourself outwards. You're just kind of like cowering in fear. So those kinds of dynamics in a relationship are definitely not healthy. They're toxic, and so you may have realized this because we do have as the foundation card the Six of Swords. So that could mean that you have gotten away from that situation. So possibly you have, if you're married, you have separated. Again, obviously this is a general reading. I'm hoping that I'm trying to anticipate this because sometimes I get comments. I'm not separated from my partner. We're happily married for 20 years. And you know what I say to them? I say, well, why are you watching this then? Why do you have to watch a love reading if you're happily married? Why do you have to watch a love reading if you're happily in a relationship? That doesn't make any sense. Unless you're the kind of person that's waiting for the other shoe to drop. This is for people that are having problems in their relationships. I thought it went without saying, but apparently not. If the forecast says there's a 0% chance of rain, I don't watch the radar because I already know that it's going to be clear skies. So there's no reason to watch this if your relationship is happy. For those people whose relationship is troubled, you may be thinking of leaving, or you already have. I mean, when I say leaving, at least separating physically so that you're not having to deal with this on a daily basis. Because sometimes people don't want to just get divorced, or if they are, even if they're not legally married, it's going to be very similar where they have shared a life together. So they may just physically go to different places so that they can get their heads clear. They don't have that other person always in their space, and they can figure it out. What crosses you is the Queen of Swords. Well, that's kind of interesting. When I was doing this, when I was saying that about the Seven of Wands, there's a possibility that there is some of you. I'm gonna go there. Don't be mad, Cancer women. Are any of you acting in an aggressive manner towards your partner? And you may be under stress, or maybe it may be very specific to, I was going to say menopause, bad PMS, I don't know. But this could indicate that maybe you're the one doing it, because the Queen of Swords in the challenge position can be that feminine energy that is cutting somebody to ribbons. Usually, this is one of the things, and it doesn't have to be always that it's a woman who is doing this. I suppose a man could do it because it would be more on the emotional level. Queen represents the emotions, the feminine principle, which is the emotions. Usually with women, aggression is more on the psychological level or the verbal level, isn't it? And this would be more of the verbal level with the swords, with the words, the cutting words that people say. And that sometimes can be more damaging. So hopefully none of you, if you are female Cancer people, are making, creating an environment where your partner feels like they are on the defensive, and that is creating, maybe they left because of this, because they felt like they were under attack constantly, okay? But there's the other possibility is that there's another woman involved who, well, this could be the mother-in-law. I didn't think about this. Queens can be mothers. So it could be that triangulation thing where the mother-in-law is pitting her son against her daughter-in-law. Interestingly enough, though, if you're watching for a Cancer male and you're another sign and you're just watching for his reading, Cancer males oftentimes are mama's boys. And I've said this before. They can be. I'm not going to say they always are. And so they are particularly susceptible to this, where they have a hard time breaking free from the mother, and the mother knows this. The sign of Cancer is a sign of the mother. So when a male has Cancer like sun sign, they will tend to overemphasize the mother's influence. Whether their mother abandoned them when they were a year old, they will be constantly searching for a mother substitute. It's just the way that sign operates, because it's all about the mother. So the mother becomes an archetype that is very big in their life in some way. Okay, so if you're dealing with that type of scenario, you may be tempted to focus on the mother-in-law as the villain. That would be the wrong tactic, in my opinion, because it takes two. It takes the child to go along with the mother. And I suppose even a Cancer woman might be susceptible to this sort of influence, negative influence by the mother. That's a possibility as well. I usually think of the male, but it's possible if it's a Cancerian woman that her mother is interfering and she's buying it. She's allowing the well to be poisoned. But I was also going to say the mother of the child of the person that you're with. So if they had a child with somebody else, this is 2018, these scenarios come up quite a bit, and maybe she was the one who left him, but now that he's got somebody else, all of a sudden she wants to get him back, or she wants that kind of control. Just realize that she's not the problem. He has to be strong. It's not about the other woman. And not that they're together, but even if she's trying to get back together. The higher message. This is funny because this is Cancer too. This card represents Cancer. The Six of Cups. The higher message position is meant in the philosophical advice, or looking at it from the spiritual perspective rather than the mundane perspective, which is the next card that I draw, that is more about the practical things you can do. This is more of like looking at it from the spiritual point of view. One thing I would say is look at if you have children, or even if it's somebody else who's using their child or children as a way to get their former partner back. Always keep the children first and foremost in your mind. Do not allow drama to envelop the home life of the child, whether it's your children or somebody else's children. Don't have fights in front of children. Don't do any of that. That's not okay. Adults should always discuss their disagreements privately, and don't subject their child to that, because then the child feels like they have to take sides, and plus it's traumatizing for children to see adults arguing, fighting. It's very upsetting to them. So it's like, make sure that if there are children involved, that you protect the children at all costs. But protecting them at all costs does not mean staying in an abusive relationship. Even if it's psychologically abusive, that can be very damaging. The other thing is and actually, in thinking of the children, could be leaving that relationship. And if you feel guilty and you think, I'm breaking up the family, think about what you do subjecting the children to that sort of negative environment. But in addition to this, what this card represents, it represents the past and maybe your childhood. Are you replaying patterns that happened with your parents, or the attitude that your mother had? If there is a mother involved or a mother-in-law, I mean, what kind of relationship did you have with your mother? Was there manipulation? It's also another thing. This is one of the things that Cancer falls into the trap. If you're with somebody who is abusive emotionally, where they're constantly trying to make you feel like you're not good enough, there may have been a time, there was a honeymoon period where it didn't happen, and you may constantly think back to that period and think that it could ever get back to that. And sometimes Cancers get trapped in the past because they remember when things were better, not realizing that excuse me, I almost got through it, but I didn't. Not realizing that sometimes people, or that it doesn't work that way, that people tend to get worse and worse, okay? I'm not saying that people can't improve, but if they start good and they start deteriorating, that's not a good sign. I mean, it's better to start at the bottom and start improving, right? I don't know. But in any case, I think you get what I'm saying. But the Six of Cups is also the soulmate card. So maybe you're not with the right person. Maybe there's somebody that you click in, that you both, it's like a mutual admiration society. On the practical level, the World card, the last card of the Major Arcana, very clearly speaking of endings, okay? Now, a chapter closing in your life. I'm recording this on December 12th. On December 22nd, we are having a full moon in Cancer. A lot of you are going to be probably watching this in December. So keep that in mind, because there'll be an end to, there'll be a chapter closing in your life. And it could have to do with relationships, because whenever there's a full moon, the sun is in the opposite sign, in the opposite house. So the sun will be in the 7th house. So you will be, excuse me, you will be focusing on issues that connect with yourself and things that you want to take out of your life, you know, and that might be a relationship. What's coming in is represented by the 9 of Swords. This is a card of anxiety. By the way, I didn't say this, but I mean, this could be an air sign. And I think when I did Libra's reading, I got some cards for Cancer. So Libra is the usual suspect with the air signs. Aquarius and Gemini are the other air signs. And with air signs, I mean, it is kind of an odd couple, because they are very detached and you're very emotional. And this is going to be where a lot of the problems lie, is that you may always feel that this person doesn't love you enough, and they just have a different way of showing it. And sometimes, in my experience, a Cancer person can accuse another person of not caring. And it's totally coming from their subjectivity, because they have a certain image or, you know, concept of what love entails. It's not necessarily fair for them to do this, because it's not how life typically is. I mean, we do not have the same way of expressing ourselves. We don't have the same emotional habits. So how can we express our emotions exactly the same? We can't perceive emotion the same either. So it's really pointless to accuse somebody of that, because it's not accurate. It's not reality based. But I want to talk about that 9 of Swords. That 9 of Swords means that you're going to have to face anxiety. If you're leaving a relationship, or you know that it's time to leave, there's no getting around it. It's going to feel uncomfortable. And the thing is, though, that discomfort is part of the growth. If you try to prevent yourself from feeling discomfort in life, I feel like a lot of times you end up playing small. You end up having situations that are less than, you know, you end up having relationships that are not expansive, that are kind of just sitting there. They're kind of contracting. And the outcome is the Ace of Swords. So another Swords, and this is a card of, it's like seeing the light, seeing things very clearly. And with that 6 of Cups, I think that sometimes nostalgia can take over a person, and they can paint a rosy picture of their life to the point where they see things from that kind of romantic point of view. Nostalgia. This isn't so much romantic as more idyllic. Painting a rosy picture of how things were. And even like, for instance, I mean, if that Queen of Swords is your parent, is your mother, and she is coming in between you and your partner, in maybe very subtle ways, it could be that she wasn't necessarily a bad parent, but once you got old enough to move, you know, to leave the nest, that was when things started to go downhill, because she was thinking of her own identity, and now it was being threatened. And she didn't have the same sway over you, the same, you know, the same power. And so that can sometimes be when the parent starts to use these underhanded tactics to try to get what they want. And that's not fair. And you may believe that she wants the best for you, but she may have her own ulterior motives. So I'm not saying that if a parent points out something negative about a partner, that means that parent is doing something nefarious. Because if you're the one who is actually under attack by somebody and the parent sees it, they may say, look, this person is not respectful towards you. I hope that you know that. I hope you can see that. And that could be very important. But I'm talking about when they are kind of concocting this because of their own needs that are not getting met. So I'm just cutting the cards for the Oracle card. But I wanted to say about the Ace of Swords is I think that you're going to sort things out. If you are separated from someone, I think you're going to decide whether or not this person is somebody that you can work with, that you can decide to stay with, or whether you need to make a permanent break. I have a feeling, though, with the World card that it's going to be an ending. And understand that if this reading resonates with you, I'm not talking about something out of the blue. This is just kind of something that you've probably already had your suspicions about, and now it's like come to pass. And I'm just kind of reiterating it, or kind of like validating it for you. Okay, so this is from the Whispers of Love deck. Receive with love and appreciation. Receiving something lovingly from others is a way of showing love. Isn't that a beautiful illustration? Oh my goodness. So beautiful. It's funny. I would ask you, Cancer, how many of you are capable of receiving gifts very easily? I would wager that a good many of you have a hard time with receiving, that you're much more comfortable giving. I think Cancer is a very giving sign, very caring sign. But what happens is if you don't nourish yourself and you're giving too much, it can deplete you and you can turn into this biatch. This is what that person is, the Queen of Swords. So that can also mean that you, what goes along with that is not being able to receive love. Sometimes attracting this sort of person who points out your flaws is, to me, an energetic, is a like physical proof of your inner feelings towards receiving good. In other words, you may have that tendency to feel that you're not deserving of receiving praise and good things. It might be uncomfortable for you to be paid a compliment. I would not be surprised. As hypersensitive as some Cancers are, they also have a hard time receiving compliments. So suffice it to say, it can be kind of maddening to be around a Cancer person sometimes. No offense. I hope that I'm not going to offend any Cancer people, but you have to be able to be open to receive love, however it comes. If it's from a compliment, if it's from a gift, and then you feel like you can't accept the gift. If somebody says that's a beautiful dress, oh, this old thing, I've had this for 10 years, whatever. Okay, all right, Cancer, that's what I have for you. And if you'd like a private reading, a love reading, since this is a love type of a thing, in particular, in my love readings, I use your natal charts primarily. I do a tarot spread, that's secondary, but if you have a partner and you want me to look at, or maybe more than one person, I look at their information. I don't do synastry where I put, there's like a computer program and they put one chart on top of the other, because I like to look at people as individuals. I'm not looking at just this, okay, let's just like crunch the numbers here. I mean, we're talking about human beings. And it's not just about, okay, how many you know, trines do we have in in common? How many, you know? No, I look at what each person's patterns are and how that can affect the relationship, and also do a tarot spread. So just check me out. The link is below. Have a wonderful January. Bye.